Good afternoon, and welcome to K2's Road to Excellence with Word, Part 2 in our partner VohCom. This is Alan Salmon, and I'm pleased that so many of you have joined me this afternoon or this morning, depending on what part of the country you're in. My good friend Marilyn Benninger is my backup today, and she is your go-to person for any issues that you have. And of course, she monitors and manages the questions. Before we start, 10 days from today, we will be sending you the recording of the webinar, my teaching notes, my teaching files, and the answers to all of your questions. You can submit your questions at any time, and you do that in the chat window. And after the webinar is over, Marilyn will collect your questions and send them to Ray and myself. We will send her the answers, and you will get that in your package 10 days from now. At the end, those of you that have been with us before know that there's an exit survey. I've added a question, and I should have added it a long time ago. And that's an open-end question where I'm looking for, or I should say we're looking for, comments and suggestions. And in terms of your CPD certificates, 4 times today, Marilyn will be stopping myself and Ray and putting up a polling question. That's a multiple choice question. You don't have to get it right, but you do have to select one of the possible answers and click on submit, because that time stamps your record, and we know that you're in attendance at that point in time. And if you're recorded as submitting 3 of the 4 questions, you will get a CPD certificate for 1 verifiable hour. If you don't, it'll be 1 non-verifiable hour. Now, today we take a break from Excel and we focus on Microsoft Word, and it's the second session that I'm done. So, Marilyn, before we get started, can you please put up the first poll?
Absolutely, Alan. My pleasure. So, folks, you should be seeing a blue screen, and it's a series of questions. We're asking about which of the following Word tools do you use when it's useful to you? We're going to ask you, do you use all the apply styles, update the normal file, track changes, breaks for columns, or potentially none of the above? We like to keep the polls open until we see 90% participation, and we're just about there. Thanks, everyone, for your responses. I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thanks, everyone. I'm closing the poll now. And there are your results, Alan.
Interesting, but I think I'll show you some new tricks. I'm impressed that 18% of you are updating the normal file, and we'll get to that. And to me, that's one of the most useful things in Word. More on that to come. Let's get started with our Word tips. And what I want to do first is do a quick review of a hugely important tool in Word that about half of you are using, and that is styles. I'm going to highlight this title, and then I'm going to go up here, and you'll notice in the styles on the Home tab, I have a title style. And when I hover over it, I get what it will look like. And there we go. Now this is a heading, and when I go up here, I'm going to go to heading 1 and select it. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to make it a heading 1, and I think there's one more down below here. There we go. So I've used styles, and you're thinking, well, I could have done that, by changing everything over here. And that is true. But when I look at this, I don't like that title style. So what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to right mouse click on the title in the style, and I'm going to go to modify. And I'm going to change it to black. And my favorite title is Arial Black. 36 is way too big, so let's bring it down to, let's say, 18. And I click on OK. But I missed something. So I'm going back to modify, and I'm going to click on center. That's better. And I'm going to change my heading 1. So again, I go up here, right mouse click, and go to modify, black, Arial Black, and this time it needs to come down to about 12. And there we go. Now I want you to pay attention to the Windows 10 header down below when I click on OK. Did you notice it changed? As did budgeting and forecasting tools. So here's the name of the game with styles. If you use styles for all your formatting and then decide you want to change a style, all you do is right mouse click on that style, click on modify, and when you're done, it will ripple through and change all of the text in your document that are that particular heading. Now there's another thing here that I want to show you, and that is this. I'm going to take a similar document. Actually, I'm going to type, jumping real quick in here. I'm going to make this a style. So we'll make it heading 1 again. And we'll modify it. And there we go. Now, the last time I clicked on OK. And what I didn't point out to you is those styles that I modified in my first example are only found in that document. But notice this radio button. New document based on this template. Going to click. And what I've done is updated the normal template. And the normal template is this. Affects this. I've created a new workbook. And I'm going to put changing the normal template in my new documents. Can't spell. Starting now. Okay. So we're going to make it heading 1. And you notice what it did. So my suggestion, and what I've done over time, is I don't like a style. I will change it. But when I change it, then I will go down here and click on New Documents so that from that point forward, that new style is incorporated. So over time, I've built a style library that works exactly the way I want it. So again, I can't overemphasize the importance of using styles. Now, I only showed you that it would change any text in the document. It's also useful for many other things, and that is table of contents, hyperlinks, and so on. Next, I want to touch on a concept that's very useful, particularly in documents that are more than a couple of pages. And to show you that, I'm going to go to the View menu, and under here in the show, there is a checkbox called Navigation Pane, and I'm going to enable it, i.e. I'm going to check on it. And now I have a panel here on the right-hand side. And as we go down here, if we go down here to Introduction and I click on it, that's a hyperlink, and it takes me to Introduction. And if we check what the style is for that, notice it's a heading 1. So all of my heading 1s become links in the navigation pane real quick. As I said, I use this mostly in documents with, say, more than 3 pages. But there is another thing here, and that is when I'm writing a report, I sit down and bang it off, first draft. And invariably, I got some things out of order that when I go back and check it, should be in a different place. Well, the normal way to do that would be to do a cut and do a paste. But why do that when I can take this, left mouse click, drag it anywhere I want, and I'm done? So as I said, not for everybody if you're only working with a couple of pages, but this is a hugely useful tool in longer documents. Moving on, I've got this document. It's 2 pages, as you can see. Well, I wrote this for my blog. And what I want to do with this is, instead of having it as one column, I want to use multiple columns. So I select the document that I want to turn into columns, and I go to the Layout tab, click on Columns, and I want to instantly. But notice it didn't do this because I didn't highlight it. So let's do it again, and this time we'll highlight the entire thing. And I'll go to Columns, and I'll go to 3. Done. But 3 is too much, so I'll put it back to 2. So I don't use this as much as I used to. When I wrote for the Bottom Line accounting newspaper, I used to do columns so I could see what the final output was. But once in a while, I'll do columns. And then some more navigation issues, and that is the ability to select text really easily. So I'm going to go out here in the margin, and I'm going to click. Actually, we'll do it down here so you can see it. And you notice that it selected the whole line. And I nicely created this table up here to give you some clues. Click in the left margin, line. Double click the paragraph. And if I can do this right, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. If I triple click, it'll select the whole document. Takes a little coordination to do that, sorry. And then if I double click on a word like that, it selects the word. And you can try all of these. I find them hugely useful. Next. Something that was really, really painful, and sometimes I still have problems with it, and that is the concept of tabs. So notice that my mouse pointer is to the left of the B, and I'm going to click on the tab, and you notice it went in, and it keeps jumping. And if I highlight this paragraph, and by double clicking and hit the tab, it moves in. And you notice it seems to move in to, it jumps the same every time. And that's because I'm using the default tabs. If I go to the layout menu and click on paragraph, down at the bottom of this window, I have tabs. Notice up here, default tab stops 1/2 inch. So every time I clicked there and hit the tab, or selected the paragraph and hit the tab, it moved in 1/2 inch. And you can change this if you want it to go in 1 inch. Notice the jump this time. And by the way, if I want to go back, I hold down the Shift key and hit the Tab key. So there's a little bit about the standard tabs. Now, let's go down here and look at the ability to set tabs. And by the way, I forgot to show you that, so we'll go here. And that is the ability to change a tab from a left, center, right, or decimal. So what happens if we go right? Well, let's go 5, 6, 6, 6. And you notice it's moving in because it's a right tab. Let's look at decimal tabs. So if I put a period in, notice that where we go. So tabs don't have to be the horror story that a lot of people think they are. And now one of my favorite little known tricks in Word, and that's the ability to create what are called quick parts and use the quick part gallery. So what do I mean by this? I call this a macro on steroids because I'm going to go here and I'm going to click copy. Why? Because I want to create a tool called a quick part that I can run that on command without having to do a macro. How do I do that? I go to the insert and I go over here to the quick parts. And when I click on the download triangle here, I get this save selection to the quick part gallery. Okay. I need to give it a name, so I'm going to call it Maryland. And I'm going to click on OK. And I'm going to go right down here And I'm going to go back to the Quick Parts Gallery, and I'm going to go down to Building Block Organizer. And I did that too fast. I'm going to go back here to Quick Parts, and notice at the very top of the window now is the last Quick Parts that I did. And there it is. Now, over time, I'll only have one here, and this one may not be where I want it. So we'll come down here and go back to Quick Parts and go to Building Block Organizer. And there's a list of my building blocks. So we'll get it in alphabetical order. We'll go down to the M's. And I went by it. And there's Maryland. Click on Insert. And there we go. Now, Microsoft has been very kind to us. So let's go back to Quick Parts. And let's go down to the Building Block Organizer. And all of these are things that we might use. Not the accent bar, but let's go down here to ASAP 1 and click on it. And what we've done is inserted a watermark. So when you get a bit of spare time, you might find it useful to go here, go to the Building Block Organizer, and slide down, and you don't have to select each one, but there's an arrow. There's a bibliography, and so on. But enough time on that. Let's go into the world of tables now. And a table in Word looks like this. And there's various ways of doing a table. So the first example that I'm going to use is what is called Quick Tables. And that will always come out. I will always create tables from the Insert tab and open up the table window. And you notice down here at the bottom, I've got Quick Tables. And Word has created a bunch of samples for you. So let's select this one, and there it is. And now I can go in and modify this, but it's created the table for me. Let's move on to another example of a table. Let's move on to another example of a table. So we'll come down here and go to here, Insert Table, and let's do this. There we go. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 rows or columns by 3 rows. Now, invariably, we'll want to change the space in a table. And I can do that 2 ways. That time, I hovered over the line till I got the 2 vertical lines and the 2 arrows, or I can go up here where you see that I have 2 arrows. So I can play with the width and height. What happens if I want to add some rows? Well, I go to Insert, and I go to Insert Row Below. There we go. The next way of doing it is this. I go down to Insert Table, and I want 6 columns, and I want 4 rows. And the final one that I only use when I'm teaching, and you'll see why, is I go to Insert, I go to Table, and I go to Draw Table. Now, I happened to flunk drawing in kindergarten and never took another course after it, but notice that I'm drawing a box. Hit the Escape key to get the pencil gone, but that's kind of a useless table because I'll want to put some stuff, I want at least 2 columns. So I go here and I go to Split Cells. And we'll do that. So all kinds of flexibility. Now, very rarely will I create a table in Word, unless I really need one on the fly. So what does Alan do? Well, he goes to guess what? My favorite program, Excel. And you notice I've got a table here, part numbers, sales units, sales dollars, and I've done some created conditional formatting on it. And I want this into Word. So let's experiment. We'll do a copy, and we'll go to the Word document. This one. And I've got a table in there, but we'll add another one. There we go. Now, I've got a lot of ways of bringing in a table. So let's start with Control V and do a paste. I sure don't like that. So we'll do an undo, and we'll go to Paste Special. And now we've got 6 choices. And the first time I went in here, I said, oh, I'd like formatted text. I click on OK. Yeah, I got formatting, but I didn't get any of my conditional formatting. And if I go back here to Paste Special, and I do unformatted text, that's even worse. So that only leaves 2 realistic choices. And those are Picture Enhanced Meta File or Microsoft Excel Worksheet Object. They basically work the same. There's some small technical differences between them, but I like this one. And I'm going to do a paste link. And now I'm a real happy camper. So let's do that again for reinforcement. Paste Special, the top one, Microsoft Excel Worksheet Object. And you notice I selected Paste Link. Why? Because I'm now back in Word, and I'm going to change this to 25,000. And I'm going to go back to my Word document. Update the link, 25,000. So invariably, Paste Special Microsoft is the one that I will use. And I'm just about out of time. So I'm going to call this a wrap. And Marilyn, can you please show my final poll? So Marilyn, it's time to do a handoff. It's time to bring Ray Francis from VohCom into the picture.
Be able to see my screen now?
We do see your screen. You have the comm.
Thanks, Marilyn. My name is Ray Francis, and I'm the marketing manager at VohCom Software. We're a Vancouver-based software company that designed VohCom Page. Page is a practice management workflow and timekeeping software that was its founding firm became paperless and improved digital workflow. The firm was expanding from northern BC to seek opportunities in the greater Vancouver area and wanted to improve their digital file management workflow and keep better track of their emails and messages. What we'll go over today in this presentation is how Page streamlines communications for the accounting firm, both with your coworkers and your clients. We get an overwhelming number of emails these days. Sending emails back and forth between coworkers and clients can create a confusing mess of admin. Saving emails can be cumbersome, and not having them for reference when they're needed, like if they're still in someone else's inbox, creates a bottleneck that no one wants to deal with. In this presentation, I'm going to show you how work is sent in Page, how emails are created and saved, and how files can be sent securely through our file sharing service, vShare. Now, what you're looking at on my screen right here is called the action list. This is a screen that allows you to understand the work that you're currently working on and also allows you to organize and prioritize it. Now, I won't go too into detail into the action list. This is not so much part of our communication model. However, I'll give you a brief overview. We have status and importance indicators to give you an idea of the status and importance of the job. We have a last from, that's who has sent you the work. We have the account number for the engagement or for the client. We have the client's alias name and also a description of the work that we're doing. We have the applicable year-end date, a critical date, which is the final deadline or the filing deadline, a target date, which is a service deadline usually, or when you want to have the engagement complete, and also a personal due date, when you need to be done your work on this engagement. You can see the last time this engagement was viewed, the budget for the engagement, the work in progress on the engagement so far, and the accounts receivable for the entire client. Now, down at the bottom, we have what's called our workflow ribbon. This allows you to understand at a glance the status and the milestones that you've reached on this engagement. Now, from a communication standpoint, if I mouse over the description line, I can see a snapshot into the last few actions on this engagement, including messages to me or other members of the firm. In this instance, I can see that the client would like me to call them ASAP. In this instance, I can see that the client has been contacted for missing information, the client has submitted the information, and everything's saved into the engagement. So the file is ready for me to review. So what I'll do in this instance, I'll go into this first engagement. What we're looking at here is called the engagement window. Each engagement is a workspace where you can accumulate time in documents that relate specifically to this task. Additionally, the engagement window is a launching pad for streamlined communications with clients and other members of the firm. Any member of the firm with permissions to this engagement can access the engagement and quickly understand what's going on with it. Now, the engagement window is designed to open like a traditional paper file. The left-hand side panel tracks all the information and actions, notes, communications, and work sent on the engagement. The user can decide the level of note detail they can see. For instance, if you want to see all notes, you can see anytime files were linked or created into the engagement. For the most part, you're going to want pure notes, so you just have the details that you need for the engagement. Over on the right-hand side, we have a panel for all the files and emails for the engagement. Any type of file can be linked here and launched by double-clicking. WIP, Sent, and Receive tabs are available by default. We also have a number of custom tabs for you as needed. The middle bar allows you some quick links to launch Word and Excel documents, also to save files to this engagement, and to generate emails. We also have a quick link for programs up at the top left-hand corner, and an I for information button, so you can quickly access information regarding this particular client and the engagement. Now, in this instance, the client wanted me to call them ASAP, as I can see in this note. So I'll suppose I did call this client, and at the end of that, I'm going to append a note. By saving this note on the engagement, anyone who reviews this engagement will see this note and understand what we discussed. Now, if I want to send work to another member of my firm, I can click on the work button here. I can select the person that I want to send the work to. I can put in a reference. And I can even reference files that are in the engagement as well. This way, when the person that I'm sending the note to, when they open the note, they'll see exactly what I want them to refer to. So when they click on this note right here, they can see the note that I've sent them, but they can also see the actual files that I'm referring to and that I want them to refer to when they're doing this task. Now, if I were to have completed a milestone on this engagement, I can mark that milestone complete right here. I can right-click on it and mark it complete. And now anyone working on this engagement can see that this is completed. Also, I'll highlight at the top of the screen here, there's this running clock. This resets number of times while you're in the engagement, but you don't have to keep track of the time that you're spending on the engagement as the system is doing it for you. Something as simple as sending work in our software that just takes a few clicks of the mouse. We often see other accounting firms using up to 5 software to complete this task. They'll send a message to another coworker in Outlook. The person receiving the work receives it in Outlook. They'll refer to a client information system or a document management system to see what files that they have to work on and how to get in touch with the client. When they've completed their work, they'll update an Excel workflow worksheet. And then at some time during the process, they'll have to stop and start a timer in their time and billing software, or they'll have to remember to make an educated guess on how much time they spent on the engagement for billing. So having that done all in this space, where you can send the work, find the client information, see all the applicable files that you need for this task, you can get that all done with one software, and it's a major time saver. Now, Marilyn, do you want to go over to the first poll question?
With pleasure. Thank you so much, Ray. All right, folks, this is the third of 4 polls today, and it relates directly to maintaining important emails that you send to and from clients. You can select one. How do you do that now? It could be in Outlook, could be on paper, could be in a shared drive, could be in a dedicated document management system, or maybe that just doesn't apply to you at this time. Lots of response. Thank you for being so quick. We're already at 85%. I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thanks everyone for your responses. I'm going to close the poll. Do you see those results, Ray?
Let me just reopen the window here. I can't see them actually.
Okay, so we've got 57% are using Outlook, 11% are using paper, 18% on a shared drive, 4% on a dedicated document management system, leaving 9% with none of the above. Thanks for your feedback, folks.
Okay, great. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to launch and save emails from our engagement window. In this instance, I'll go into this engagement, Houghton Enterprises, the T2 corporate income tax return, by double-clicking on it. Again, over on the left-hand side, I can see all of the notes and all of the actions that have been taken on the engagement. And on the right-hand side, again, I have all of the files for the engagement. Now, there's 2 ways to send emails to your clients. For reference, I'm just going to click on this I again, so you can see that we have the main contact details available, but also we have a number of additional client contacts available as well. So when I click on this middle button for email, it'll launch with all of the applicable emails available for this client. This is really handy when you're creating an email. Sometimes if you do it in Outlook, you'll put in the wrong email address, or you'll type in Ray Frankfurt, or you'll intend it to send it to Ray Frankfurt, but you'll send it to Ray Francis instead because the names are so similar in Outlook. So by selecting the exact email address, you take away the room for error. And you also have the ability to connect these to your templates in Outlook so that when you create the email, it's created with the text that you would already need in the email. So I can quickly send this off to the client. Another way that we can send emails, if we're sending files to the client, what we can do is we can select the files here. We can right-click on it, select Send To. Again, I'm provided this interface that allows me to select the email address and also the template that I want to go out with this email. And I click on Create. Again, I'll put in the subject line. And you'll see that the email is populated with the attachments from the engagement. So it's very straightforward and easy to send files to the client. Now, another thing that I'll show you is how easy it is to save emails to the engagement. Now, if you see this email here, it's regarding the engagement that we were currently working on, the Houghton Enterprises K2 corporate return. We have an Outlook macro that you can just click right in your Outlook window. By clicking that, it'll identify the appropriate client and the appropriate engagement to save this to. You can preview the email here. You can see the email that I sent. This hash right here, because the email is originated in Page, when the client responds to it, it'll streamline the process of saving it back into the engagement. So here I'll just put in, I'll be able to save the entire message. It'll identify which folder it should be saved into in the engagement. I'll save that. We'll also have the ability to select the attachments and save them as well. Now when I go back in Page and refresh, I can see on the Receive tab that I have the email message as well as the attachments. Open this up. Now, one last thing I'd like to show you about how you can use Page to send information. Suppose you're sending sensitive information that you shouldn't be sending over email. It's something that has sensitive financial information or perhaps social insurance numbers in it, and you want to send it in a way that is encrypted and secure. What you can do in this instance, you can select the files that you want to send. You can right-click on them and select Upload to vShare. vShare is our secure, encrypted, two-way server where you can send files to your clients and receive files from them with a high level of encryption. Here you'll be able to see the files that you're sending to the client. The description line you can change. It'll default to the actual files that you're sending. You can select the to email that you're sending it to. You can select a password if you want. You can also select the number of days that this will remain on the server. The servers are based in Canada for our Canadian clients. So if you're sending information to a Canadian client, it'll never leave Canada and go onto an American server. You can specify the number of days that you want it to be on the server. We don't recommend more than 5 days, but we do allow up to a maximum of 30 days. And we also give you the option to delete files right after they're downloaded or to delete the files on the expiry date. Much as was the case with the emails, we have a number of presets that we can select when we are sending documents to the client. We can generate a preview email of what this looks like. And then when we select OK, it'll push an email to the person's inbox. They'll be able to click on the link in the email and then download the file. So here is what it looks like. I'll click on this link right here. It'll take me to a website that would have your logo on it. And here I can download the files that were sent to me. Or if I provided the option, I could upload files as well. So here's the downloaded file. Now also, when the files are downloaded, I'm immediately given an email confirmation. So I know that the client has downloaded the file, and I have that available on my system for future reference. Now, Marilyn, do you want to go to the second poll question?
Thank you, Ray. Absolutely. All right, folks, this is the last of the 4 polls for today. When sending messages to other members of your firm regarding a billable task or engagement, how is that message sent? You might be using email, some workflow software, instant message, a hard copy note, or that might just not apply to you, or you have another method in your office today. Lots of quick responses to this question. We're already at 85%. I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to close the poll, and let's just share those results. So, Ray, not surprising, I think, 58% of folks are on email, 3% are using workflow software, 4% are instant message, 4% admit to using a hard copy note, and for 32%, it could be something else, or it doesn't apply to them today. Thanks, everyone, for your responses.
Okay, so just in closing, I'll just go over the pricing for a VohCom page. Single licenses are $400 on an annual fee with an installation and training. Each additional license is slightly discounted, same with the installation and training. For a 5-person firm, it's $1,900 a year. For a 25-person firm, it's $83.75. Fee share pricing is very competitive for a secure file sharing server. 1 to 5 licenses is an annual fee of $329.45, and for 21 to 25, it's $769.45. If you compare that to the other secure file sharing service, you'll find that to be very competitive. We have a new product release called Page Solo. It's for single practitioners only. It's a free download and 30-day trial, and the regular price of the software is it's a one-time purchase of $9.95, but for Accounting Technology Tour and the K2's webinar attendees, it's $795. If you want additional information or if you'd like a live demonstration of the software, you can feel free to give us a call at 1-888-857-3864 or check out our website at VohCom.com, and you can request a demonstration there as well. Back to you, Marilyn.
Thanks very much, Ray. One of the last questions that just came in was about pricing and your trial offer, and I'm glad to see that you touched on that. Thanks so much. Alan, I think we're ready. I think we're ready to hand back over to you. Are you there?
I sure am.
All right. You have the comm.
All righty. So we're at the end of this webinar, and I want to thank both Ray and Marilyn for backing me up. And I want to say thank you to all of your attendees, and remember to please answer these short survey questions at the end of this webinar. It's a wrap.